and welcome to Raps Assistant on Air, your Rapeseed podcast. My name is Rene Brands, and today we will speak about Rapeseed, the Olympic crop. Again with me, I have the honor to welcome my guest in Sweden, Albins Gunnarsons from Svenskap's. But before we will jump directly into our discussion here today, I would like to ask the farmers in our audience, did you reach last year a rapeseed production of 7,174 kilograms per hectare? No? Interested? Then have fun and enjoy our edition here today. Again with me is the Swedish rapeseed rockstar Albins Gunnarsons. Albin, how are you doing?
Always fine, Rene. We're planning the new year, and we have to wait another 5 weeks until 1st of March when we can apply nitrogen here in Sweden.
Okay, great to hear. Albin, during the last weeks, I had the chance to speak with my colleagues in East Europe. Next to this leading topic, Corona, we had also the chance to speak a little bit about the rapeseed conditions and the situation outside in the fields. My colleagues from the Baltics and from Belarus, they mentioned to me, okay, after a few years of more mild winter, they have now really strong winter again. They struggle a little bit with frosty temperatures and snow cover. Interesting was that my colleagues from Ukraine, they told me that at the beginning of the year, they had quite mild temperatures in Ukraine, with temperatures up to 10 degrees. Can you imagine that? Now they also struggle with frosty conditions, so there are already some question marks for the production then here in Ukraine in summertime. Albin, can you give us an update? How is the winter in Sweden?
Well, it was very mild in December as well, but luckily we got a bit of winter in January. We have had snow on top of the oilseed rape in most areas, but it has also disappeared. But I believe snow is good because we still can get very low temperatures. Now we just have snow in middle Sweden, not so much in South Sweden and here at my office. So we can still have down to minus 15, 18 degrees in some areas, but with a few centimeters of snow, I'm not worried.
Albin, during our last podcast in December about clubroot, we spoke in that podcast edition also about attractivity of rapeseed on one side. We spoke about challenges for the farmers, increasing diseases, necessary of resistances against such diseases. I remember also we spoke quite a lot about crop rotation, optimal sowing dates for a successful rapeseed establishment in the autumn time. I remember from our discussions in the last years that you mentioned Swedish rapeseed farmers, they are quite limited in their choice of using pesticides, for example. So I asked myself, what are you doing here for your farmers? What are you doing with Svenskap's for Swedish rapeseed farmers somehow to find a good balance for them?
Well, you're right, but things have been better. We fought a lot to get the PGRs registered in Sweden and finally got it in 2018. There are still products we don't have, but they are available in the Baltics, even that we all work in the northern zone. In 2016, we wanted to see and compare different ways of growing winter oilseed rape with international tools, and we introduced a competition, Rapsmästaren, that's like Swedish Open in oilseed rape.
I can already add something to our listeners in the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, this competition called Rapsmästaren is more than just an event or a competition between farmers. Me personally, I don't know any other project like that with such an European perspective and with a vision to exchange here helpful advices between the farmers. In the past, there was events running similar like that. For example, DLG field days, but unfortunately for Rapeseed, cancelled already since many years. So Albin, I think you have to give here more background data to our audience, especially where did you make this competition and what kind of structure was it? Small plots, big plots, and how you managed the technologies here in this event?
The purpose to compete in oilseed rape is to break the limits. Our competition works like an open field trial where each competitor is free to choose nearly all his inputs. It's a professional plot trial with 4 applications. You choose variety, seeding rate, weed control, fertilizers, fungicides and insect control and more. The only thing that we can't manage is different soil cultivation. There have been 40 competitors every time, and each competitor pay to participate, but the winner with the highest oil yield will walk away with about 5,000 euros.
That's good. Thanks, Albin. Now I guess our audience have a little bit better idea of what is here behind this competition, Rapsmästaren. Albin, I mentioned already that that you had quite broad group of international participants. So from which countries farmers and people were participating on your competition?
The international input to this competition is very important, and we are very happy to have international competitors. This time we had competitors from Finland, Poland, Germany, Czech Republic, Denmark and United Kingdom.
Albin, small surprise also for you. Today we have the chance to invite another international guest here to our podcast. It is a man working as a seed manager in one of the biggest dealers in the Baltic countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking forward to the participation of Sigitas Augas here in our podcast today. Welcome, Sigitas, and great to see you here in our podcast today. Many thanks for accepting our invitation, and already thanks a lot here for your support in our podcast. Let me introduce you a little bit to our audience. We know that you're working for one of the biggest dealer in the Baltic countries in Dotnuva Baltic as a part of this Linas Agro group. You are a seed manager and working here in the business already then more than 20 years, if I'm right. Yeah, you are definitely an expert for varieties, not only for rapeseed, which is a topic here today. Sigitas, I would like to ask you, may add a few more points about you and yourself for our audience.
Thank you for your invitation. It's a big pleasure to participate in this podcast. Yes, As you mentioned, I already more than 20 years in the Linas Agro group, and start from after the university in 97, just after the finishing. Joined very young company, a very small company. I was 7th employees in this company, and now in the Dotnuva we have more than 200, and already we're operating in the 3 Baltic countries. In all our group, now we have more than 2,000 employees. And from the beginning, I started as seed manager, and later on, my responsibility is now to take care of the whole seed business in this group. So, and it's very glad to be in this company and to see how this company was developed practically from the zero. We start from the free land, and now we have a seed plant and multiplication and preparation of the seeds. So it's very nice to see all this development.
For me personally, it looks like that I have now the right experts here today for my discussion about rapeseed, the Olympic crop. Sigitas, Albin and me, we spoke already a little bit about this rapeseed competition 2019-20 in Sweden. My colleagues of Dotnuva Baltic, they spread already some information about that in the social media channels in the last year. And today we will go a little bit deeper and check what was going on here in this competition, what were the final results. We will also discuss a little bit with Albin about the analysis, and may then discuss with you if there are possibilities to take over some of these advices and to spread them to the Baltic countries. So, Albin, come back to you. We had already a look behind the structure of your competition. Let us go further with the most important point. Please share with us what were the final results of your competition 2020.
Yeah, when it's about a competition like this, it's timing, and also the right choice of variety, because this is always a single result. It's a single year on a single place. But we see that choosing the right variety will have an impact on yield by over 20%. But it's like competing with horses. You also have to steer the capacity and also know the capacity of your variety, and be cool with your crop. Oilseed rape needs to be grown, not forced to grow. And this is what the winning team ēterā Halland from Sweden did with 7,174 kilos of oilseed rape, and Rapeseed from the Czech Republic with 6,986 kilos per hectare did.
Albin, that are really outstanding results. Did you expect such a high production in autumn 2019? And please keep in mind, autumn 2019 in south of Sweden, that was quite wet. Spring 2020 was totally opposite. It was, if I remember well, it was then dry, and so the conditions were not really favorable for such a high rapeseed production. So, did you expect that?
Well, you're right. It was very wet in autumn, and we are allowed to start to fertilize the 1st of March in Sweden, and mid of March until mid of April was really dry. But we were on one of our very best trial sites. Sure, we could have had even high yields, but 2020 went quite good despite those troubles in autumn and spring.
Any further explanations next to this location and soil?
Well, it's a good trial sites, and on good soils it's always easier to recover, and the soil will forgive you. We recognize a higher soil fertility led to a higher compensation potential.
Sigitas, I would like to ask you, the the European rapeseed yield, so the average yield 2020 was somehow 3 tons, 3.1 ton for the European rapeseed in total. Did you had some similar observations, similar examples of outstanding productions in the Baltics? Did you have seen some of your customers going also and breaking here yield records in the last year?
2020 yields for winter also tripe was quite good, but maybe a little bit lower than farmers was expectation, because that fields looks very, very good, and we have so long flowering time, maybe more than 5 weeks, what is unusual. And normally farmers, it's telling what 1 week flowering, that means 1 ton yield per hectare. But in the end, the yield was a little bit lower than was expectation and how the plants it looks. So, but in general, of course, 2020 yield was higher compared with 2019 yields. So I think the farmers, they are happy with the yields 2020.
Alvin, I have to ask you that, did you have heard this information or did you know that
Yes,
a week
yes.
of flowering is a ton of yield?
Yes, we know that every week of flowering is a ton of yield, and I also recognize a very long flowering period in 2020 as overall in Sweden, and we got a good yield. Of course, we have had high yields with very short flowering as well, but it well, your crop stands open. It will be susceptible for fungus and like that, and we have a long flowering time. But I believe that a little bit longer flower time is better than a compact short time, often caused by drought and stress.
Let's go further. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the feedback from the last podcast where Albin and me spoke about clubroot, we got a lot of positive feedback of this new little game. We call it Rapeseed for Experts, the little game by Raps Assistant. So let's continue here in this podcast. Also, guys, I would like to ask you if you are ready for a new version of our little game, and would you like to participate to my new 5 questions, which I had already prepared for you?
I'm ready.
Sigitas?
That's right.
Okay, great. Last time we spoke a little bit more about Swedish rapeseed market. Today I prepared my questions a little bit more on a global perspective. So let's start and jump into my first question, guys. Let me start here. A yellow flowering rapeseed field offers 36 kilograms per hectare pollen and 144 kilograms per hectare nectar for our honeybees. My question to you: what do you think, based on these figures, how much rapeseed honey can we produce from 1 hectare of rapeseed?
Can you present three answers that we can choose? Right?
Rene, I actually have had bees for 28 years. Not right now, but I had since I was very young. I believe you can get out about 110 kilos of oilseed rape. Of honey from an oilseed rape field.
Okay.
But it also depends on when the field starts to flower and what shape your beehive is in. But theoretically, about 100, 110.
Okay. And Sigitas, would you like also to estimate an answer?
I know that the bee holders, they very like the rape, and they are asking to allow to bees in the rapes areas for the collecting of the honey. So I think about 200 kilos can collect bees from the 1 hectares.
Okay, let's go further. Our colleagues of Dotnuva Baltics, they will publish in the next days a new video about history of rapeseed breeding. And guys, I can promise already it will be really a very nice video. They made a very, very good job. You know, NPZ, as one of the shareholders of Rapul, we have a huge and long tradition for breeding rapeseed. Our first leading variety created by Hans Lemke was tested in official trials at the University of Hohenlied in Germany between 1925 to 1931. This first variety was called Lemke's Winter Rapeseed. And now I would like to know from you, what do you think? What was the average yield in this trial at 1930s, at the beginning of 1930s? Do you have an idea what was the yield level at that time?
I think it could have been about, it's a higher Ruka, but it could have been about close to 3 tons.
Okay. And Sigitas, what do you estimate?
My estimation can be maybe about 2.5 tons. Just, I don't know, but just shoot.
Just one last information from my side. This variety was outstanding in that trials with 115% relative yield. Was based on the winter hardiness and further improvements, really this leading variety in that time. Okay, go further. And that could be an interesting topic then especially for Albin. The rapeseed grower Richard Budd from southeast of England reached with 7.19 tons per hectare in 2019 the gold award in the Yield Enhancement Network and own somehow official, unofficial world record for rapeseed production. They analyze also somehow the potential, the possible yield potential. My question now to you, what do you think? Was this possible yield more or less than 8 tons per hectare?
Sigmas, you want to start?
I think less.
We have reached over 8 tons in plot trials, so I think it can be more. It can be more.
The next question number 4. The International Grain Council expect for 2021-2022 an increase in the global rapeseed acreage of 500,000 hectares on a level of 35.6 million hectares, especially based on the developments on the international market in the last weeks. They expect, just for Canada, a plus of 400,000 hectares for sowing then in spring 2021 on a level of 8.7 million hectares. My question now to you guys, what do you think? Which country is forecasted with 7.4 million on the second place behind Canada?
Could it be somebody else than China?
China.
Sigitas, you say China? Albin? China?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And last question. Rapul invest every year in breeding and research progress. Today, one of the main topics, and we will touch this topic also later, is turnip yellow virus resistance. The latest figures from Czech Republic present pretty well the impact of this new resistance. While we had in 2016-17 a market share of this genetic in Czech Republic of 0%, we are speaking today about a market share of 45% based on turnip yellow virus. But what do you think? When was turnip yellow virus classified as an independent virus strain in the scientific? What do you think? When was the first time that we spoke or first about turnip yellow virus?
I believe it could be in the 80s sometime.
Sigitas, any idea?
About 85 or 1995, 85, something like that. 15 years ago. Or...
That's it. Many thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you like these questions as well. We have some really interesting answers, and if you are interested in the official answers, please keep an eye on our social media activities. We expect probably in 10 days to publish then in our Facebook channels the official results. Thank you very much for participation and for your interesting answers in our little quiz. Let's come back to Rapsmastern. Albin, you told me that you have finished your analysis regarding profitability of the different participants. What did you find out? Please give us an update.
All competitors had different goals. Some just want to win whatever it costs. Some wants to see and compare their home strategy with others. And some are very good growers with green fingers and just want to know what they can do and not really much more.
How much fertilization and pesticides were necessary to reach 7,174 kilograms? Come on, give us a little bit more data.
Well, with 84 kilos of nitrogen at autumn, together with phosphorus and potassium, a small dosage of PGR and early nitrogen, and later filled up to 220 kilos. One PGR early in spring and 2 fungicides treatment. It seems quite simple.
I have some figures from Hungary, for example, about income of rapeseed production, and the latest figures, for example, in 2019, they show an income of 181 euros per hectare for rapeseed without any further support from the government. I would like to know what was the ratio between costs and then final income from the participants. Do you have here some figures for that?
Yes, we have done a calculation after the competition to compare the different teams, and the highest income from oil seeds, the seeds, was 295 euros per hectare, but it can also be quite expensive to produce. But actually the highest yield value was done by the winner Erfahalla with 295 euros about per hectare. But when you calculate costs to that, I think we had about 95 or something different products in the competition, so it was a huge work to get all prices and compare them. And we had put also cost for application cost with and that and so, and then we have a net income for the winner, and then it's a change here now. So now Espesedo goes from second place of yield to the first place in income, and they still have 220 euros left per hectare, but with those 220 euros per hectare they have to cover harvesting costs, seeding cost, and also land price, labor costs. But we have been calculated application cost and product prices.
It was in our third podcast. We spoke mainly about position of fungicides and the importance of fungicides on rapeseed production. And here there's always a question about, does it make sense to make an early application shortly after winter to somehow to control a little bit the rapeseed growth, or is it then better to go with the later application? So what do you think? What was the best application date for the fungicides last year in 2020?
If I guess we calculate the I say PGRs, but it's the triazoles as a fungicide as well. We have 14 teams out of 40. They did applicate a fungicide early spring as a growth regulator. 8 teams did it the 20th of March. 3 teams did it the 25th of March, and 3 teams did it the 6th of April. If I look on to those 3 different application dates, I see that we have 5 out of 6 teams from those who did it a little bit later, 25th of March and 6th of April. They have a better position in the competition. They are up in top 10, and I think we see here that it's a very narrow window to do a spring application with the growth regulator with a triazole. So this is a question about timing. You need to be very perfect in timing to get an positive effect about that. But it's impossible with 40 different teams, 40 different ways of growing oilseed rape to just point out that this fungicide was the best one, this application time was the best one. There you have to have more clean trials, fungicide trials, fertilized trials, a weed control trial. Here is just a mess of all different applications, but we can see the tendency that a little bit later, from circumstances at the trial site in the very south of Sweden, an early spring application in the very beginning of April was the right time in 2020.
Sigitas, I'm curious about your opinion. Would you agree with this feedback also for Baltic market?
In the Baltics also, it's two opinion. One farmers, they are using this early spring application for the grow regulators, and another not. But our suggestion maybe is that for the maybe hybrids which has a Gura system and has maybe most acceptable for the lodging, and if there is very good growing condition in the spring, we recommend to use this grow regulator. But for the MSL system, and if there is a very cold spring, then we suggesting maybe not to use this early spring grow regulators. But still it's on the discussion in our market how it's positive this very early grow regulators used on the winter citrate. There's no one opinion.
I mean, back to spring 2020, we touched that already at the beginning. It was a little bit more cold. It was a little bit slowly start. So my question to you: how was then here the influence of the insect? Did you see big pressure here, and how the participants react here on insects?
We have scouted all the insects in at the trial site together with the Swedish Board of Agriculture had a control station there, and it was not a lot of insects, just a few weevils, no pollen beetles, and it was a very low it was a very low amount of insects, and about 50% of the teams did like one insecticide application, but when we look at the scouting, you had probably no effect of the insect application, and we have been working quite a lot with insects control in Sweden, and we try to give advice and talk about using insecticides when you have a problem, when you reach a threshold, and be very aware of using too many insecticides, because it's a limited way, and we don't get more substances.
And I think a very similar situation what Albin told, that spring was quite cold and the pressure from the insect side was pretty low. For sure, for some securities, for sure, farmers use spraying, mostly use spraying against the insects, but the pressure was really low. What we can see also from the production of the bio rapeseed, that they also survive very well without any application of the insects, for sure. So in general, yes, this cold spring, there was very low pressure from insect side.
I mean, one more question from my side to you about flowering application, and here about fungicides. I'm curious, what was the most used product here in your competition, and what was finally the best application date?
Well, when it's about fungicide application by flowering, it was quite equal between Pictoractive and Propulse. But already the 9th of April, the teams start to use fungicides against Sclerotinia, and some teams has used it several times. I think 2 teams put on a fungicide 3 times. About 7, 8, 9 teams did 2 applications, and then they have probably mixed fungicides, mixed products. We cannot see really what time it was the best. Probably it was not good to do it very early. It was better to do it in May. 14 teams did it the 4th of May, and 19 teams did it the 8th of May. It's just 4 days in between there, but there we have most of the fungicides. We, of course, we had checks to look at, but there were not big impacts on fungus like Sclerotinia or like leaf spot, for example. So it was quite healthy field, but we have impacts on the yield from the fungicides, yes.
did the participant go with the full recommended dosage?
When it's about fungicides, they mainly used full dose, and if they did a mix, maybe with one application they mixed several fungicides like triazoles and then strobilurins, so it's a mixture, but they go up to full dose. There is no one here who has like put on a double dose or anything like that. A few teams has applicated several or 3 times with a little bit smaller dose, and like to save the new growth of the oilseed rape.
Sigitas, what is your favorite recommendation for your customers regarding flowering application?
Generally, of course, the biggest part of the farmers, they're using one time fungicide application in the full flowering time. This year, as I mentioned, the flowering was very longer than usually. It seems even this full dose not control 100% against the sclerotinia. We think maybe this long flowering time can influence on this infection, because we see some fields with after the application in the harvest time that there was a sclerotinia in infection. And generally, yes, farmers using one time full dose on the full flowering time.
Sigitas, do you have any questions to Albin? Are you interested in some points which you would like to know?
As in Lithuania, there are some farmers, especially who has some propellers, sprayers. They are spraying nitrogen on the pots, urea on the pots. Have you tried in your trials or in your country? It's a common this.
Yes, we have tried that in official trials, and we have never seen any effect on foliar application of nitrogen when it's not a demand of nitrogen in the crop. You can get a positive effect if you have a nitrogen deficiency, but if you have enough nitrogen available for the plant from common application in early March and April, that's fine. You will not improve the yield if you spray more nitrogen on the pods if the plant has sufficient with nitrogen. That's our experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, I guess some of you have already recognized that NPZ, as one of the shareholders of Rapul, also participate on this rapeseed competition in Sweden. 2016 I was too late for applying to participate on the first competition, but 2020, I got the chance to participate here in this event, and of course I was really looking forward for this experience, and I started really with some big expectations to myself and to benefit somehow from this exchange with all these other competitors. But what should I say? Already after a couple of weeks, there came up the first disappointments and some really bad feelings, because I already start this project with a big mistake and really with a very disappointing performance of my plots. Come on, Albin, give us an update to our audience. What were my main mistakes here in this competition?
You didn't listen to my special advice to our international guest that you don't know our Swedish circumstances. You didn't fertilize at seeding. That was the biggest mistake, and you were also unlucky with the choice of your variety.
Yeah, really. it was really I really remember so like it was yesterday when I came then to your autumn field day and have seen then my plots in comparison with the other plots. Oh fuck, that was really, it was a shock. And then tried somehow to compensate this disadvantage then later on in autumn and in spring, but it didn't work.
But Sigitas, can you have a comment from the Baltics about autumn application to oilseed rape? In Sweden, it's very, very important to put on nitrogen actually at together with at seeding time.
Yes, we're doing also application in the autumn time, but the quantity is a little bit different. It depends on the technology. If the farmer is using some plowing or some pre-crops like grassland, then the nitrogen they're using maybe about 30 kilos in the autumn. But if the farmer is sowing after the cereal, especially this autumn when the straw was huge amount left on the fields, so they use additionally 30-40 kilos for the nitrogen in the autumn time.
Yep.
So generally, yes, in autumn we're using, but the amount depends on the technology on the pre-crops.
I was thinking about upfront about what kind of conditions we can expect, what kind of challenge. I was thinking about verticillium, because season before verticillium was a topic in Sweden. I was thinking tight crop rotation, and I should go ahead here with a very robust variety. But then later on it wasn't not the right choice in connection to the conditions which we had then in autumn and spring. So it was quite disappointing. There was a statement which I found in social media. Agriculture seems so simple if your plow is a pencil and if you are 1,000 miles away from the field.
I don't really I agree with that, because of course it's more difficult for the international competitors to perform well in a competition in Sweden, but it's always difficult. It's also difficult for competitors not living close to the trial site. We try to support you with pictures and on your plots and so on, but of course it's easier to be there and not to farm from a desk with a pencil.
Do you have an idea from which person comes this quote?
No, not really.
Dwight D. Eisenhower. I had a lucky hand with the organization of the participation of Peter Baranek from SPZO in Czech Republic on your competition. Finally, he was able to reach the second place in your event. Would you like to give us a little bit more feedback about his main success factors?
It seems even more simple for Mr. Peter Baranek and SPZO. Only 48 kilos of nitrogen in autumn, a small amount of phosphorus and potassium, 1 PGR in autumn, early nitrogen filled up to 177 kilos of nitrogen, and only 1 fungicide spray in the spring. But, and so, the Czech biostimulant Hirundo in the beginning of March, and they got a fantastic yield with just a low input. Peter Baranek and the Czech team did everything right with a successful timing. Early fertilizing first week in March was very important when we got that drought in the mid of March. First it was very wet, Second week in March we couldn't get out, and then it turned out to be very, very dry. And they didn't go too hard for it, and they treated their crop very well. It's timing and small inputs.
Sigitas, do you have some experiences with biostimulants in your market?
We have, especially after the hot winters, if we see that the plants looks weak after the winter, there is a common to use these biostimulants in our country, and I think that we are using quite a lot of what I have information from the other countries. We're using quite a lot of biostimulants, but especially after the hot winters. Of course, we're lucky now that we almost 3 winters was very mild, and there was no any problems with the wintering. So that's maybe this use a little bit lower. But after the droughts or in the drought period, yes, farmers they are using these biostimulants.
But I think we must know here that it cannot be a rush to just use a biostimulant, because the biostimulants there are all different. Just like fungicides, you cannot just spray a fungicide against Sclerotinia. You have to have a mode of action that works on Sclerotinia. And these biostimulants, they work on different things. And we don't know Hirundo in Sweden before. And I believe there is biostimulants that works, but they also are specific, like the fungicides. It's not a quick fix. But we need to know more about that, and I believe it's a lack of information in Europe about the biostimulants. There are coming more biostimulants, but it's often small companies and not a lot of money to do trials and research. And there we can exchange information from the different countries, what biostimulants works and when and where.
Albin, I have recognized something interesting in your final results. First and second place, both used turnip yellow virus resistant varieties. First one Smaragd, on the second place variety Temptation. I'm curious now about your opinion. Do you think that it's just pure random that it happened in that way? Because if we keep in mind both varieties belongs to the top of the list, for example in Germany or in Czech Republic. So I'm asking myself, would you agree that there's something behind this turnip yellow virus story?
No, it's not random. We haven't had Temptation in the Swedish trials before, but breeders told me that Temptation and Smaragd are very similar to each other. Smaragd performed well in Denmark in 2019 and also pretty good in Sweden in 2020. But I also want to say that these two varieties were the right varieties on this spot this year. But we also have a variety from a different company that went good in the trials but bad in the competition. So it's an example when you have to be able to run your horse the right way, and to get out the full capacity of the variety by choosing the right inputs. And when it's about the turnip yellow virus, we haven't actually found any virus in the Swedish oilseed rape yet. We do collect aphids. We do find some aphids, but not a lot, and we don't find any virus yet. So I don't think there is an impact from the virus resistance in this Swedish variety testing yet, but it might be.
Sigitas, You have in your portfolio since last year also the first turnip yellow virus resistant hybrid from Rapul. The variety is called Dominator. We have recognized already quite good start with this variety in your trials. Please share with us your first impressions here with this hybrid.
What we saw in the autumn time after the germination of this variety, that this variety developed biomass very quickly, what is very important in our region, because always we have difficulties with the right sowing times, I would say with the early sowing times, that varieties create necessary biomass before the wintering. And another thing what I like on this variety, even this variety grow very fast in the autumn time, but the grow point was not make elongation. So it's also very important for the winter hardiness. If we will postpone or do later this grow regulator, then its elongation has big influence on the winter hardiness. So this, even in the spot where we find more plants that was necessary, these growing plants growing point was quite close to the ground, what is very important for the wintering. So, and of course this turnip yellow virus, it's maybe not very common disease still also in Lithuania. We are finding some places that it's existing, especially last year. But for us, it's very important, this verticillium. And what we have information from the breeders that maybe this variety also has influence on the verticillium diseases. But for us region, it's becoming more and more difficult, this disease. So we hope in the good yield after 2021 for this variety. We'll see.
And I would like to catch 2 points from your statement. First one is this interesting and it looks like a stronger growth in autumn time of this genetic, and that is also a point for you, Albin, to explain here a little bit this success of these varieties in the of course in your competition, but maybe also then in your official trials. We know from internal investigations here that this genetic has a stronger growth boost, and our guys from the research department, they give us that information. It could be that when they implement this gene, it was not something like a single gene which they implement to the rapeseed genetic. It was more a little bit like a cloud with many other genes in the environment. So they said, there is really an additional growth boost visible in this genetic. And I explained then myself with this additional growth and better establishment before winter. I remember very well to a comment from a breeder in that time when I worked for Monsanto. He said, okay, what you can see above the soil, you can also expect in the soil. So, and that is what we found out with some trials with some of the universities in Germany, that they found out really that the root system of this genetic is stronger, is bigger than in comparison with conventional genetic. That is one comment really which I would like to share here with you. And the second one, back to you, Sigitas, is this verticillium story. You mentioned that is quite big story for you in your market. We see here, you have really tight crop rotation in most of your areas, and so a higher risk for verticillium. And yes, this variety Dominator but also varieties like mentioned here, Temptation. They show somehow a good robustness, a good tolerance against verticillium. We see now here in Dominator, for example, that we have this combination of turnip yellow virus and RLMS as a new FOMA resistance that is presenting a really attractive plant health package. So we see really here a very robust stem, which is it looks like more green and more powerful against such late appeared diseases, and we see that very well in official scorings, for example in Czech Republic, where the SP said, they developed a new plant health index based off the performance against FOMA, sclerotinia, verticillium, and so on. And here we have seen that, for example, Dominator really set up a new level of plant health and yield. And Dominator shown very well last year in Czech Republic, outstanding performance with 109% relative yield. So it was really outgoing and showing very well here these new developments, the new variety package which are coming up to the market. So I think you can be quite lucky with your variety, and I'm convinced that we will also see in 2021 good results here with Dominator in the Baltic market.
We hope also to see very good results for this variety, and we will have, I think, many data, because this autumn was planted around 6,000-7,000 hectares in the whole Baltic country, so it will be many data about this variety.
I know that you also look over the border to Poland. Dominator was also here in the official trials, and in the PDO trials we see here some interesting picture. Dominator was with 108% relative yield just on the 12th place. So that's quite not really attractive result. But if we keep in mind that it was the first MSL hybrid in that list on the 12th place, we see here this trend that the Ogura types are dominating the official trials more and more. That was really an interesting fact, so that it was really the first one who was somehow able to compete here with the Ogura varieties. And then it's always one perspective, the official trials, and then the other side of the medal is the performance then in the farmer's field. And here we see also with Dominator as one of the biggest varieties in Poland, that the farmers are quite satisfied here with this variety. Albin, back to you. Do you see something similar like this trend in Poland, so that Ogura types are somehow dominating the official trials?
Yes, they are, and I think varieties with quite good package of resistance is quite good. As we talked about in the Clubrot podcast, we have a long history of growing oilseed rape in Sweden, and it has given us quite a lot of diseases in soil like verticillium, and of course with Clubrot there is some FOMA, there is always some FOMA, there is some light leaf spot, and you need to have a variety with quite a good, I call it common resistance, not a not a specific resistance, but varieties with common resistance, they probably do quite good in official testing. And the result from an official testing is always an average of several trial sites, and that's the difference here of official trials and the competition like the Rapsmästaren. And this is a result from a special site, a special year, and there has special circumstances this special year, and it same applications, same varieties will probably do a little bit different next year, but this was right this year.
Sigitas, I know that you have a quite tight calendar, and so I don't want to keep you longer as necessary here in our podcast. Many thanks for your participation, and I hope you enjoyed our discussion here today, and also many thanks for your feedback a little bit to look on these results from that competition more from the perspective of Baltic conditions. Yeah, me personally, I really hope and cross my fingers that we get the chance to see us and to meet us personally, maybe at Agrovisia in summertime. Hopefully the things with Corona going better soon. So thanks a lot here for your time today, and wish you all the best for spring 2021, and of course, stay healthy, Sigitas. Thanks.
Thank you for invitation. It was glad to discuss about the rape, because this crop more and more important in the Baltic countries, and crisps hope that 2021 will be again very good for the rape, and keep healthy at this time.
Exactly. Sigitas, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Albin, we are coming to the end, and inspiring discussion, a lot of data which we exchanged. There was a quite deep discussion, and I already know the feedback from the Baltic colleagues. We crashed already the expected time of 40 minutes, but okay, it was very valuable discussion, so I think that's fine. I know that you have always this intention to exchange here your experiences and advices with the farmers, really to give them the input, the impulse to adapt their technology in order to be ready for the challenge of today. I'm curious, what are now finally your main advices for them based on the experiences from Rapsmästaren 2020?
Right timing was important of inputs, and also noticed that the chess team together with a few others used biostimulants. I think we have to look more into that. But biostimulants, as I told you before, can be quite specific. They don't work everywhere, every time. You must have the knowledge of where and when.
One more question from my side, and it's a little bit a review of our podcast here today. The topic is rapeseed, the Olympic crop. Do you agree that 7,174 kilograms per hectare deserve the gold medal?
Yes, it's a top yield in our trials this year, but we just have one other site that was better, but who knows, that might be the next place for the Rapsmästaren 2024.
One last point which I don't want to miss. If you look right now at the MATIF prices, you see really we have reached now a level of more than 400, up to 430 euros per ton for February 2021, and even the prices for next harvest with more than 400 euros look really attractive. So keep that in mind when you plan your technologies for spring. Invest in your crop. Believe in the rapeseed. May follow some of our advices from our experts, and definitely use the chance here to benefit from rapeseed as a cash crop. Alvin, any last words from your side?
Yeah, I agree with you, and be kind to a crop. Oilseed rape is a crop who wants to be treated well. You can't push it to yield, and we saw that in Rapsmästaren 2020 as well in 2016.
Alvin, again, from my side, and I think also from the audience, thank you so much for your participation and for your input, feedbacks, and that you shared your personal recommendations with us during this already 5th podcast. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it here for today. One wish from our side, please share your feedback with us. If you have any topics which you would like to see here to discuss with international experts, also please share that with us. Rapeseed remain exciting also in 2021. We look forward to the next podcast. Hopefully we will be able to see each other somewhere in summer 2021. That's it here from my side. Thanks a lot, and stay healthy, your Raps assistant.